Good evening and welcome to the premiere of Time and Again. Every night we'll journey back in time, bringing you the most compelling television moments from our vast NBC News archives. And since we're launching MSNBC today, what better way to mark the occasion than with Apollo 11, which left its own launch pad this week in 1969. It was a milestone in human history, the first steps on another world. The astronauts who took those steps left a plaque on the moon saying they had come in peace for all mankind. But in the early 60s, it was the Cold War that ignited the space race, with the United States and the Soviet Union in deadly serious competition. President John F. Kennedy spelled out America's challenge on May 25, 1961, and began the countdown to Apollo 11.
This is not merely a race. Space is open to us now, and our eagerness to share its meaning is not governed by the efforts of others. We go into space because whatever mankind must undertake, free men must fully share. I therefore ask the Congress, above and beyond the increases I have earlier requested for space activities, to provide the funds which are needed to meet the following national goals. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
President Kennedy did not live to see it, but America met his challenge just 8 years after that speech. And 27 years ago tonight, Apollo 11 stood ready for launch. That night, with liftoff just hours away, NBC News went on the air with a special report anchored by Frank McGee, Chet Huntley, and David Brinkley. And guess what program they preempted?
Star Trek will not be presented tonight, so that we may bring you the following special program.
Now, a special program in living color on NBC. For centuries, flying men to the moon and landing them there was a dream. Now, in this summer of 1969, man stands ready to fulfill that dream. The roll of names and achievements preceding this moment has been long. Tonight, 3 Americans: Neil A. Armstrong, Edwin E. Aldrin Jr., and Michael Collins stand on the threshold of man's most epic adventure.
NBC News presents Apollo, A Journey to the Moon. Tonight, The Threshold, reported by Frank McGee.
Perhaps man's skill in space technology runs ahead of his ability to create a truly human life here on Earth. And perhaps knowledge of outer space will be a useless luxury unless man gains deeper insight into his inner self. But no matter how one feels about the Man in Space program, nothing in our lifetime promises to outlast the wonder of those first few steps on the moon. And amazingly, this journey between human aspiration and human capacity has taken only a dozen years. 45 million Americans, 1 in every 5 of us, was born after the space age began in 1957. Man's restless imagination long stretched far beyond his technology, but never beyond his fancy. So the mighty armada is gathered, and the decade-long efforts of more than 300,000 persons all converge tonight on a single goal. Hopefully, the moon is also ready. Chet?
Frank, I'm struck by the fact that plans for getting to the moon, the how and the way of doing it, are almost unchanged from the 1961 Apollo blueprint. At that time, NASA identified some 10,000 questions that had to be answered before Americans would try to land on the lunar surface. Judging from unexpected astronaut sniffles and nausea along the way, It seems that the least predictable element has been the health of the crews. But here we are, 10,000 answers later, and as space jargon goes, the moon landing mission is go for launch. Nerve Center is Mission Control, NASA's Communications Center in Houston. Prime Flight Director for Apollo 11 is Cliff Charlesworth. As always, alert and relaxed, they sit in front of space-age consoles of TV tubes and blinking lights. An array of electronic gear stretched around the world is continually reporting. The communications marshalling point is Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland.
Honeysuckle, this is Goddard Network. Would you give us the status, please, of your antenna slew checks? Give us the x-axis first.
Antenna slew through the x-axis is smooth, and the tracking data looks good.
Roger, and how's the y-axis?
The servo system seems a bit tight, but the tracking data is good. We see no problem for the Apollo 11 launch tomorrow.
Roger, Honeysuckle, thank you. Madrid, this is Goddard Network. Would you give us the status, please, of your Astro voice air ground checks?
Madrid, Roger. Terminal getting short count on CSM air ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Test out. All checks at Madrid have been completed. We are go for launch tomorrow.
If more removed geographically, it's still a big moment, too, where most of the hardware began. The plant which assembled the Apollo 11 spacecraft, all 2 million parts of it. It's a kind of Walter Mitty quality, where even the worker who tightened the smallest connection has a keen sense of participation. Here and on pad 39, where hundreds of last-minute checks have been made in recent days, each man has his own thoughts.
I'm just as excited as I can be. And I've pointed out to my people that we're standing on the threshold of a discovery that man has not seen for over 400 years, and I'm just tickled pink.
This is the one. This is the one that's going to tell us whether we have got it or haven't got it.
There's no telling what we're on the threshold of right now. It's probably like it was back in the days of Columbus. Nobody knew what was going to happen when Columbus set sail.
It's real impressive. It's one of the biggest things in my life.
It's something you don't ever get used to. The more you see, the more you want to see.
I'm very much surprised that we really are here. But in the evening when I look out to the moon, it has come a little closer. It is not quite so distant anymore.
Nearby tour buses have been crowded. On these busy days, one leaves the information center every 7 minutes. The number of visitors increases at the rate of 20% a month.
It is remarkable. It is a sight that we can be proud of as Americans and as men of science.
No one leaves unimpressed.
We have to keep going forward. We can't go backward.
But thoughts run deepest in hometowns and among the astronauts themselves. Neil Armstrong was born in Wapakoneta, Ohio, where his parents still live.
I watch the moon a lot now, and I really feel that if we can get somebody on another planet, it will be a revelation to all mankind that the universe and the creation is so much greater than anybody ever realized.
Tomorrow history is going to be made, and we all know it. And we have a unique position, because normally when history's made, people don't know it. Tomorrow we're just going to get up and watch it made.
Of course, McDivitt is right. Even in the distant future, when Vietnam is just one line on the list of American wars, historians will have to say something about man's first step on the moon. Anyone who is now too old to be trusted, over 30 that is, has seen some history made, but in most cases he probably didn't know it. It is hard to tell what will be history until it is history. And for most of us, that's too long to wait. Whoever may have been standing or idling about the docks in Palos in Spain in 1492, watching an Italian captain sail away in 3 leaky boats with a quarrelsome crew, certainly didn't know what they were seeing. The Italian captain didn't know himself. And now, when a highway department finally builds a 2-lane bridge over some muddy creek, and a small-town mayor comes out to cut the ribbon and to make a speech while the high school band plays Under the Double Eagle, The mayor says, as he almost has to say, that history has been made here today. Well, a first is a first, and it can only be done once. And to say that somebody is about to land on the moon and walk around on it while almost everybody on Earth watches is just about too much to swallow. I almost don't even believe it. But it's true. And if this is not a permanent, enduring event in human history, then nothing is. And it certainly will be remembered as long as mankind remembers anything.
The next morning, July 16th, 1969, NBC News was back on the air. The countdown had begun.
It's really all up to Neil in this case because he's the man who has the capability to abort from that point on. If everything isn't set and ready to go from that time on, it's probably too late.
So the three astronauts are now going through the procedures just described for us in their tiny spacecraft on top of this enormous rocket. They have about 160 cubic feet in there, which is about the size of the interior of a small automobile. But it is so carefully designed, they have packed into that small space a cockpit, an office, a laboratory, a radio station, a television station, a kitchen, a bedroom, a bathroom, and a living room. It is now, what is it, a little over 9 minutes to launch, and we'll be back in a moment.
MSNBC.
It's time to get connected.
When you get up this early, you need real coffee. Folgers Coffee Singles. Real mountain-grown coffee in a real coffee filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles. Because real coffee makes real good mornings.
Woo! What died in here? You ever have a mess so awful you need some kind of super strength to clean it? Then try new Professional Strength Pine Sol. It's even 40% stronger than regular Pine Sol. New Professional Strength Pine Sol. It's the strongest household cleaner you can buy.
Whether you're cooking Cajun, Asian, spicy, or simple, you want all the flavors to come alive. And they will with Pam. Because Pam never adds a funny aftertaste. It's clean and 100% natural. Pam just kind of works its magic and lets the food get all the attention. Just remember, as long as you use Pam, you'll never taste your cooking spray. So trust all your cooking to all-natural Pam. Taste the food, not the spray.
When do you take your Pepsid AC? Well, you can take it before a meal to prevent heartburn, or take it like you would an antacid after the meal to relieve heartburn. Before or after, one tiny Pepsid AC can control acid all night so you can sleep. Nothing lasts longer. And no other acid controller relieves heartburn faster. Not Zantac 75, not Tagamet HB. Pepsid AC. Before or after, you can be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
We do everything together. In this family, it's just me and Mom. We share responsibilities. We even share clothes. Money's tight. Everything's got to go further. Clothes have got to last, no matter how many times you wash them.
Introducing new Intensify Tide Ultra 2. A unique cleaning system helps wash away many tough stains better than regular detergents and helps keep cottons from buzzing or fading.
When clothes look new, it's like a whole new attitude.
New Tide Ultra 2. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide.
I hope this will be as exciting for viewers to watch as it will be for me to do.
It gives the audience an opportunity to participate.
Kind of a revolution in terms of the way television has been done.
I'm confined in most of my interviews to about 5 minutes at the most, but here I'll have a whole hour.
In a show like this, everybody's the host.
Inner Night, tonight at 8, only on MSNBC.
The success of Apollo 11 is well known. But back in 1969, it was far from certain. Little more than 2 years earlier, astronauts Grissom, White, and Chaffee died on the launch pad as fire gutted Apollo 1. Space travel was and is a dangerous business.
Frank, we're about to see it begin. It's, what is that? 7 minutes, 7:55. Frank McGee, you there?
Yes. And, it's getting mighty close. And though we take this in part rather matter-of-factly, I can remember, and I'm sure you can too, David, when we were kids, that one way of separating the nuts from the normal people was to ask a person, do you think the man will ever be on the moon? And if he said yes, you chalked him up as a nut.
Right.
And if he said no, you said, well, that fellow's all right.
Well, this is about to happen.
Well,
7
David,
minutes.
there it sits out there. The culmination of, well, 25, somewhere between 25 and $33 billion. The skills and dedication of about 300,000 technicians. 11 3/4 years of time. The solemn but certainly risk-filled pledge of a president. Some heartbreaking failures and some stirring successes. This is a day of little kin to that October 4th, 1947, when the shrill and persistent beeps of Sputnik, as it wheeled about the autumn skies, shoved us, unprepared and awkward, into the space age. And this day certainly bears little resemblance to those bleak days of 1958, when Vanguards and Discoverers and Junos and Atlases were blowing up on their launch pads.
Jack King is about ready with an announcement, Chet. We're going to switch to him now.
Apollo set on launch control. We passed the 6-minute mark in our countdown for Apollo 11. Now 5 minutes, 52 seconds and counting. We're on time at the present time for our planned liftoff of 32 minutes past the hour. Spacecraft test conductor Skip Chauvin now has completed the status check of his personnel in the control room. All report they are go for the mission, and this has been reported to the test supervisor, Bill Schick. The test supervisor now going through some status checks. Launch operations manager Paul Donnelly reports go for launch. Launch director Rocco Petrone now gives a go for 5 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. Coming up shortly, that swing arm up at the spacecraft level will come back to its fully retracted position. This should occur at the 5-minute mark in the count. In the meantime, the lunar module telemetry has been powered down. We took a good look at Eagle, and it looks good. The spacecraft test conductor for the lunar module reported that Eagle was go. The swing arm now coming back to its fully retracted position as our countdown continues. T-minus 4 minutes, 50 seconds and counting. Skip Chauvin informing the astronauts that the swing arm now coming back. The astronauts will have a few more reports coming up in the countdown. The last business report will be from Neil Armstrong at the 45-second mark in the count, when he gives a status on the final alignment of the stabilization and control system. We're now passing the 4-minute, 30-second mark in the countdown. Still go at this time.
Spying in cyberspace tonight on MSNBC. Knowledge is within your reach. MSNBC.
This GE compact fluorescent bulb gives you soft, warm light.
Take the ball, Jamie.
It's an energy-efficient bulb that lasts year after year.
Hit the ball, Jamie.
Up to 9,000 hours longer than an ordinary bulb.
Outside with the ball, Jamie.
So it won't need to be changed for about 7 years.
Hey, Jamie, how many grown-ups does it take to change a light bulb? Change a light bulb? Why would anybody need to change a light bulb?
The revolutionary GE compact fluorescent bulb.
How's your job?
Great. There's still a lot of stress, though.
You still getting those headaches?
Yeah, I actually went to the doctor. I thought they might be migraines. He said they weren't. He told me to take Tylenol, extra strength.
Tylenol? Not some prescription, huh?
The Tylenol works great, Dad.
More than aspirin, more than ibuprofen. For headaches, doctors recommend Tylenol the most.
You should have come to work for me, Julie.
Oh, sure. No stress there.
NBC and Microsoft enter a new era as President Clinton joins Tom Brokaw on the premiere of Internight, taking calls and questions from the internet. Next on MSNBC.
Getting nowhere setting up your Office database? Get Claris FileMaker Pro and go from shrink wrap to fully functional in no time at all. FileMaker Pro, a relational database program for the few of us without a doctorate in computer science. Claris, simply powerful software.
When do you you take your Pepsid AC? Well, you can take it before a meal to prevent heartburn, or take it like you would an antacid after the meal to relieve heartburn. Before or after, one tiny Pepsid AC can control acid all night so you can sleep. Nothing lasts longer. And no other acid controller relieves heartburn faster. Not Zantac 75, not Tagamet HB. Pepsid AC. Before or after, you can be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
The world seemed to hold its breath as the Apollo 11 countdown entered its final minute.
55 seconds and counting. Neil Armstrong just reported back. It's been a real smooth countdown. We passed the 50-second mark. Power transfer is complete. We're on internal power with the launch vehicle at this time. 40 seconds away from the Apollo 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading. Plus 30 seconds. Roll complete and a pitch program. Altitude's 2 miles. Apollo 11 Houston, you're good at 1 minute.
Flight is smooth, so far uneventful, perfectly on time, perfectly efficient. If you watched, or since you watched, the liftoff with us, there's really nothing to say about it. What can you say about a sight like that? It's a sight that there's a huge crowd out here of reporters, visitors, VIPs, and others milling around and talking and gossiping and handshaking and telling jokes and making a lot of noise in a busy, vivid scene. And NASA has set up loudspeakers outside this area here, and so when the last minute or so of the countdown begins, they hear it over loudspeakers, 10, 9, 8, exactly as we all heard it. And it was notable that when it got down to about a minute, everybody who had been lollygagging, gossiping, talking, fell still and silent, knowing he was about to see something truly fantastic, but not really knowing what it was. We all know what we saw, but in another way, we don't know what we saw. You not only see it, hear it, feel it, inside and outside. And a minute or so after that unbelievable event, as you have heard over your television, the astronauts are talking to the ground and reporting on the facts and figures of the flight, and somebody here a minute ago was saying they are as matter of fact and unexcited and calm as if they were taxi cab drivers reporting in and saying we're on Maple Street headed for downtown. They're no more excited than that.
Computers in Silicon Valley have a model number on them, and that's it. At Gateway 2000, our custom-built computers are treated a little differently. That's because every system we build has a name attached.
Connie Kramer, Connie from New Jersey. This is your computer, and it's on television.
Gateway computers feature the Intel Pentium processor. And the only way to get them is to call 1-800-GATEWAY. You get a friend in the business, give us a call.
We're ready, Dad?
When the game starts this early, you need real coffee. Folgers Coffee Singles. Real mountain-grown coffee in a real coffee filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles, because real coffee makes real good mornings.
Woo! What died in here? You ever have a mess so awful you need some kind of super strength to clean it? Then try new professional strength Pine Sol. It's even 40% stronger than regular Pine Sol. New professional strength Pine Sol. It's the strongest household cleaner you can buy.
The three men on their way to the moon were the best America had to offer. Humble, serious men, veterans of space travel. Neil Armstrong, who walked on the moon just days before his 39th birthday. Armstrong loved flying since his Ohio boyhood. Buzz Aldrin, 39, West Point educated, his father an aviation pioneer. And Aldrin's mother, her maiden name was Marion Moon. Michael Collins, 38, born in Rome, raised in Washington, D.C. After Apollo 11, he became the first director of the National Air and Space Museum. Before launch, all three astronauts spoke with NBC News.
The Apollo program, everybody, all Americans' pocketbooks are a little bit thinner because of the Apollo program. It's got 200 million people directly involved in it through that media. And above and beyond that, there are literally thousands of Americans who spend all day, every day, working very hard on Project Apollo, as much so or more so than I do. And although the three of us will receive more than our share of the adulation if the flight is a success, I don't think it's right. I think there are people who deserve it in equal measure, and unfortunately there are just too many of them to go through a list of names.
I can't help but feel a sense of humility with the challenges that will be placed in our hands tomorrow in attempting to carry out the mission that's been laid for us. We hope that when the time comes, we will acquit ourselves in as effective a way to carry out the hopes of so many people that have added to this program and have put us in the position that we are now in.
Tomorrow, we, the crew of Apollo 11, are privileged to represent the United States in our first attempt to take man to another heavenly body. We feel very honored that we can participate in this voyage, represent our nation. We think the country has provided us with the finest equipment, finest training, the finest preparation that anyone can receive. We look forward to going. We thank all of you for your help and your prayers.
Where's that baby? I brought you a little supper. A little something. It was yummy.
Great, thanks.
A little goodie.
Good news for anyone who's ever eaten for two. The same medicine you keep handy for upset stomach and diarrhea also comforts indigestion.
I never knew that.
As Pepto-Bismol coats, it helps strengthen your stomach's protection against too much food and drink.
How's my baby?
Much better, thanks.
When you overdo it, take comfort in Pepto.
Okay, here's my dream. That everybody sits down at the table together, and their hands are actually clean. And I've made these wonderful recipes, things passed down from my mom and my grandmother. The kids say, please pass this, please pass that. And the food is so good. Oh, this dressing. This is what I would make myself if I had the time. I like giving good things to the people I love.
Hidden Valley salad dressing. Honest to goodness.
Welcome back to Time and Again. Landing on the moon and returning safely to Earth required unprecedented effort. Success depended on intense preparation, flawless execution, and simple human courage. Here is the story of Apollo 11 from beginning to end, produced by NBC News a quarter of a century ago, and narrated by NBC's Frank McGee.
July 1969. Man enters the moon age.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
In a sense, it was almost as evolutionary as the first primeval fish to crawl from the oceans, the first winged creature to flutter into the heavens. But for man, once he got underway, it took only half a century to climb the steps from Kitty Hawk to Tranquility Base. Thousands of bird watchers stood near the beaches at Cape Kennedy. Millions of others watched on television. There were not just 3 men aboard Apollo 11, but something of mankind.
11 Houston, thrusters go. All engines, you're looking good.
I'm Frank McGee, NBC News. Despite all the drama of earlier space beats, despite all the discussions of scientific and philosophic implications, despite all the anticipation, it still was almost incredible. Centuries of dreaming, a decade of planning, were nearing a climax. And a special breed of 20th century explorer, the men of Apollo 11, were on their way. Spacecraft Commander Neil Armstrong, 39, not a man for small moments. Michael Collins, 38. His approach? Stay casual. Edwin Aldrin Jr., 39, part engineer, part scientist, all pilot. The 3-day trip to the moon was almost flawless. Yet nothing could properly prepare one's mind for the actual moments when Armstrong and Aldrin set their tiny mooncraft called Eagle down on the desolate, rock-strewn Sea of Tranquility.
Altitude 4200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over.
Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet.
Copy.
Alarm. 1201. 1201.
Roger, 1201 alarm. We're go. Same type. We're go.
Lights on. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. That's 40 feet down 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. 4 forward. 4 forward. Drifting to the right a little. Down a half.
30 seconds.
Forward. Just. Okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Not until later would we learn that an overworked computer had been guiding Eagle toward a boulder-filled crater. Armstrong grabbing manual control to steer over the rocks to a smooth, safe spot for landing. Once ready, Armstrong opened the hatch and slowly, gingerly moved down the ladder. Aldrin remained inside. Just a few feet below was the curious lunar soil. But first, Armstrong would pause on the disc-like footpad at the end of the ladder. Moon watchers, 1/5 of the world's population, 600 million eyewitnesses shared one of mankind's greatest moments through live television transmission.
Okay. I'm at the foot of the ladder. The LEM footpads are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches, although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Ground mass is very fine.
Momentarily, centuries of speculation about the lunar surface and man's ability to survive there would be over. It was 10:56 p.m. Eastern Time.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Aldrin, the second man on the moon, followed Armstrong within 20 minutes.
Beautiful view. Ain't that something? Magnificent sight out here. Magnificent desolation.
The two astronauts uncovered a small stainless steel plaque on the forward landing gear, a plaque to mark the landing.
For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this limb. There's two hemispheres, one showing each of the two hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Dear men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969, AD. We came in peace for all mankind." It has the crew members' signatures and the signature of the President of the United States.
Overhead, Collins in the command ship Columbia could hear, but not watch the unfolding drama.
Columbia, this is Houston reading you loud and clear. Right, the EVA is progressing beautifully. I believe they're setting up the flag now.
Great.
I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
That's all right, I don't mind a bit. Is the lighting halfway decent?
Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now.
Beautiful, just beautiful. All right, you do have to be rather careful to keep track of where your center of mass is. Sometimes it takes about 2 or 3 paces to make sure that you've got your feet underneath you. That 2 or 3 or maybe 4 easy paces can bring you to a fairly smooth stop direction. Like a football player, you just have to put out to the side and cut a little bit. So-called kangaroo hop does work, but it seems your forward stability is not quite as good. Neil and Buzz, the President of the United States is in his office now and would like to say a few words to you. Over. That would be an honor.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done.
And as you talk to us from the Sea of Tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to Earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this Earth are truly one. Thank you, Mr. President.
Altogether, inside and outside their moonship, Armstrong and Aldrin spent nearly a day in this strange, literally unearthly place. They did what they came to do. Then, in the 21st hour, came the last real moment of high tension. If the rocket engine failed on liftoff, they would be condemned to death 250,000 miles away from home.
MSNBC.
It's time to get connected.
When you get up this early, you need real coffee. Folgers Coffee Singles. Real mountain-grown coffee in a real coffee filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles. Because real coffee makes real good mornings.
When Tokyo Electric Power turned to GE for its advanced turbine technology, it gave Tokyo the largest, most efficient power plant of its kind in the world, which means more jobs for people back home and a better future for the people of Japan.
Ready, Dad? When the game starts this early, you need real coffee. Folgers Coffee Singles, real mountain-grown coffee in a real coffee filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles, because real coffee makes real good mornings.
The revolution begins here.
Because from now on, NBC News and Microsoft will revolutionize the way you get news.
MSNBC.
A 24-hour cable and internet news service. The future of news from the people you know. MSNBC.
21 hours and 36 minutes after landing on the moon, time for liftoff and the long journey home.
Engine arm ascent, proceed. Shadow, beautiful. 26, 36 feet per second up. 5 for the pitch over.
The fragile Eagle rocketed away from Tranquility Base, firing on time, boosting the mooncraft into a long elliptical path toward the command ship cruising in orbit overhead. Worldwide, there were sighs of relief and prayers of thanks. From Kobe to Quito came words of congratulations. Even Moscow noted the flight with the widest Soviet news coverage ever given an American space venture. The rendezvous chase in which Eagle would catch up with Columbia would take more than 3 hours.
Within a foot per second.
The chase would end 60 nautical miles above the front of the moon, in an orbit where Collins had remained in lonely vigil. Not since Adam, perhaps, had one man ever known such solitude. Eagle and Columbia would rejoin. Armstrong and Aldrin would crawl through a connecting tunnel and rejoin Collins. Half a day later, Apollo 11 would break out of lunar gravity and head for home. "57 hours later, it would thread the needle of entry into Earth environment and splash down in the Pacific Ocean. The moment would be part history, part holiday, and the claim of Apollo 11 in the record of man secure. Left behind, visible, mute evidence of their visit. Footprints in magnificent desolation. Now that he had taken the first steps, there would be no turning back. First the moon, and later voyaging among the stars and planets will surely, profoundly alter our lives in many ways. For man, H.G. Wells once wrote, there is no rest and no ending.
3 days after Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins left the moon, the USS Hornet was on station, 825 miles southwest of Honolulu, standing by for recovery. The spacecraft flipped upside down after splashdown, but swim teams soon had it right. The hatch was open. The astronauts came out slowly. They were lifted into a helicopter for a ride to the carrier 13 miles away. They came out of the chopper looking like men from another planet. At that time, there was some concern, which turned out later to be unfounded, that the astronauts might have brought back some exotic germs from the moon. They and their cargo were in quarantine for 3 weeks.
Neil, Buzz, and Mike, I want you to know that I think I'm the luckiest man in the world. And I say this not only because I have the honor to be President of the United States, but particularly because I have the privilege of speaking for so many and welcoming you back to Earth.
The site premieres tonight on MSNBC. You're connected to MSNBC.
When do you take your Pepsid AC? Well, you can take it before a meal to prevent heartburn, or take it like you would an antacid after the meal to relieve heartburn. Before or after, one tiny Pepsid AC can control acid all night so you can sleep. Nothing lasts longer. And no other acid controller relieves heartburn faster. Not Zantac 75, not Tagamet HB. Pepsid AC. Before or after, you can be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC.
When you buy a computer factory direct from Gateway 2000, our tech experts are there for you around the clock. What keeps them going?
When I fix their problems, guys that I don't even know will just come out and say, "I love you, Gretchen. I'm married." At least I know I still got it.
Gateway computers feature the Intel Pentium processor. And the only way to get them is to call 1-800-GATEWAY. You've got a friend in the business. Give us a call.
NBC and Microsoft enter a new era as President Clinton joins Tom Brokaw on the premiere of Internight, taking calls and questions from the internet. Next on MSNBC.
New moms need all the help they can get. Tonight, my husband's doing it all. Even the dishes. He pre-rinses everything, right down to the very last dish.
No matter who does the dishes, Cascade does the dirty work. Other leading brands can leave spots. Cascade with sheeting action gets them so clean they're virtually spotless.
Perfect, honey. Honey?
Now this ought to be an interesting party. I almost hope Larry shows up.
Whatever your reason for looking great,
Probably won't even notice me.
part of getting that look should include Kellogg's Special K cereal.
Not notice this. Right.
Great toasted taste, 110 calories, and fat-free.
Eat your heart out, Larry.
Kellogg's Special K. Great taste never looks so good.
Going to kill him with kindness.
The success of Apollo 11 has made July 20th, the date of the moonwalk, a day to remember. And over the years, presidents of both parties have jumped at the chance to have their pictures taken with the astronauts.
10 years ago today, man first landed on the moon. Today, the crew of Apollo 11 stood in the Rose Garden of the White House. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, who walked on the moon, and Michael Collins, who orbited overhead in the command module. The astronauts presented President Carter with a small American flag they had carried to the moon.
2 decades later, the images of the men on the moon and the flag they brought are as vivid as ever. Today, President Bush led the nation in tribute and talked about America's future in space. NBC's Jim Miklaszewski begins our coverage.
With all the fanfare of a moonshot, President Bush launched his vision of the space program. Flanked by the crew of Apollo 11, the president called for a commitment to put man back in space and keep him there.
At the White House today, honors for the crew of Apollo 11, 25 years to the day after the moon landing. President Clinton thanked Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, and praised the mission that wasn't far short of a miracle.
On the 15th anniversary of the moonwalk, the Apollo 11 astronauts weren't at the White House. They were talking to me on Today, July 20th, 1984. With us this morning from the World's Fair in New Orleans are the 3 men of Apollo 11 who made that historic voyage and came back national heroes. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Mike Collins. And good morning, gentlemen. And with them as well is James Beggs, NASA administrator. Neil Armstrong, does it feel like ancient history or only yesterday?
Well, in many ways it seems like 15 years, but many of the individual parts of the flight I recall as if it were yesterday.
By today's standards, the Apollo technology must seem pretty primitive. Was it part miracle? Neil?
I think it was about 99% dedication of the people who put our spacecraft together and ensured it worked the way it was supposed to work.
Buzz Aldrin, do you remember what your first words were when you set foot on the moon?
That's hard.
I do.
You do?
They were beautiful, beautiful, magnificent desolation. Incredibly poetic. Was that spontaneous or was it scripted?
No, I'll have to admit that there was some conversation going back and forth, and I chose a word or two that I'd heard and put them together because to me it described the opposites that were there, the stark reality, the preciseness of the clear atmosphere, and the great desolation of the flat plains that lay before us.
Mike Collins, everybody, of course, has asked you, I'm sure, over the years, was it a disappointment that you didn't get to put your foot on the moon so near, yet so far?
Not at all, Jane. I enjoyed it very much exactly where I was. Wouldn't have changed anything.
Surely you didn't enjoy all parts of it. There were some pretty hairy moments, weren't there?
No, everything was a piece of cake, as the Brits say.
To all of you, Do kids know who you are today, or is Steven Spielberg jaded them all?
Well, I think Mr. Spielberg and the others who have brought old space of years ago, as it was in, they've made that very popular, and most children that I talk to are still extremely fascinated with space, whether it be science fiction or whether it be real NASA activities.
James Beggs, when is another generation of men or women going to go back to the moon? Ever?
Oh, I expect so. Probably sometime after the turn of the century. When we move into that third millennium, I think we'll want to go back to the moon. But I think first we have to do a number of other things.
Buzz, Mike, either one of you, did you think 15 years ago when you came back that by now we would have colonized the moon?
About 2 years ago, I was discussing with the man who commanded the flight after Neil to land second on the moon, Pete Conrad. We're discussing the possibility of some astronaut reunion, and I think at the time we both agreed that none of us would probably be around when someone went back to the moon. Now, that was 2 years ago. In the last year and a half and year, I've changed my mind drastically. I feel very confident that I see a growing enthusiasm to return back to the moon.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for sharing this anniversary with us this morning. You look fine in business suits. You looked great in spacesuits. We'll be back after a station break.
Hello, I'm Buzz Aldrin. I've been to the moon just once, but I watch MSNBC time and again.
MSNBC.
It's time to get connected.
When you get up this early, you need real coffee. Folgers Coffee Singles. Real mountain-grown coffee in a real coffee filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles. Because real coffee makes real good mornings.
When Tokyo Electric Power turned to GE for its advanced turbine technology, it gave Tokyo the largest, most efficient power plant of its kind in the world, which means more jobs for people back home and a better future for the people of Japan.
Morning, guys.
Just when you think your diarrhea medicine is working.
Oh, boy. What's wrong?
It can let you down. But you can count on Imodium AD to stop diarrhea, often in just one dose, instead of dose after dose, more than a third of a bottle of the pink stuff. And Imodium AD is even better than the leading prescription.
I told you we should have stopped for Imodium AD.
Imodium AD, one dose relief you can count on.
Here's another valuable tip from Ditech Funding.
Tip number 5. A 30-year fixed mortgage protects you for the future. Your monthly payment and interest rate will never go up. If rates go down, you can refinance at the lower rate, often with no closing costs.
At Ditech Funding, our fixed rates are some of the lowest on the market. Call Ditech now and we'll send you a free copy of Ditech's tips for cutting the cost of a home loan. Call Ditech Funding now at 1-800-71-FIXED.
Ready, Dad? When the game starts this early, you need real coffee. Folgers Coffee Singles. Real mountain-grown coffee in a real coffee filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles, because real coffee makes real good mornings.
Imagine the freedom of instant access to the news you want when you want it. Now it's reality. MSNBC on the internet. Not a service that duplicates, but innovates. In-depth coverage of the news you care about. MSNBC, bringing you the world on your desk, in your home, wherever you may be. When you want to know more, point it here.
Remembering 1969 means remembering Vietnam, Woodstock, President Nixon's first year in office. But history will mark 1969 for one thing above all others. It was then that mankind first left home. Just 12 astronauts set foot on the moon, the last in 1972 with Apollo 17. Was it all worth it? Not an easy question. Here's NBC's Chet Huntley.
It may occur to us frequently that if we can correlate 22,000 flight steps and 9 million pieces of hardware and make them function as perfectly as all of this, why are we failing with some of our other problems? Therefore, Apollo 11 increasingly perhaps has become the symbol of a dawning suspicion that political, social, and spiritual excellence may not automatically follow technical achievement, that the two are separate. Many realize that our junkyards, the industrial slums and slag piles, the oceans of beer cans, and the urban sprawl are fruits, in one way, of technological advance. But then on second thought, it may occur to us also that technology can ultimately be applied to yet clean up the mess, which are the disappointing byproducts of this same technology. So Apollo 11 causes us to think. Most of the 200 million of us are thinking, who are we? Where are we? Is the universe our complete oyster? What about our priorities? Did the Russians, by any chance, in 1957 with Sputnik, lead us into a series of bad judgments? Is it good that we kind of cloak Apollo 11 with theological and metaphysical wrappings and second thoughts? For it might yet dawn upon us that a restrained, self-disciplined, and precise life journey here on Earth could produce some comparable results.
As Apollo 11 raced to the moon in 1969, an accident back home cost a life and changed American political history. Mary Jo Kopechne, leaving a party with Senator Edward Kennedy, drowned when Kennedy drove off a bridge and his car capsized. Questions about Kennedy's conduct triggered a political shockwave. Chappaquiddick, our story tomorrow on Time and Again. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Pauley, and we're History.
Spying in cyberspace tonight on MSNBC. Knowledge is within your reach. MSNBC.
Well, I'm 51 years old. I want to be 52, 53, so forth and so on.
Welcome to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Many smokers who are ready to quit are trying new Nicotrol, the simple one-step patch that can help control your urge to smoke so you can increase your chance of success in just 6 weeks. Over the next few weeks, we're going to show you how some of them do.
I really want to quit smoking cigarettes.
If you're ready to quit, Nicotrol is coming to your store July 18th. 6 weeks, 1 step. Take control with Nicotrol.
When I sing from my soul, it reflects my inner pride and confidence. Part of that confidence is knowing that when I open my mouth, my teeth are incredibly clean. That's why I switched from ordinary toothpaste to Tartar Control Crest. My dentist says it has special tartar blockers. They're drawn to where tartar is forming, where you can see it and where you can't. So I'm confident my teeth are clean. And when I'm confident, it makes a difference inside and out.
NBC and Microsoft enter a new era as President Clinton joins Tom Brokaw on the premiere of Internight, taking calls and questions from the internet. Next on MSNBC.
Getting nowhere setting up your Office database? Get Claris FileMaker Pro and go from shrink wrap to fully functional in no time at all. FileMaker Pro, a relational database program for the few of us without a doctorate in computer science. Claris, simply powerful software.
New moms need all the help they can get. Tonight, my husband's doing it all. Even the dishes. He pre-rinses everything, right down to the very last dish.
No matter who does the dishes, Cascade does the dirty work. Other leading brands can leave spots. Cascade with sheeting action gets them so clean, they're virtually spotless.
Perfect, honey. Honey?
The White House, home of the President of the United States. In the coming months, the American people will hear the issues and decide whether Bill Clinton will be back here for another 4 years. This evening, a conversation with President Bill Clinton on Internight.
Live from the Roosevelt Room at the White House, this is Internight. Here is Tom Brokaw.
Good evening and welcome to Internight. It's going to be a nightly primetime program here on MSNBC in which we talk to the major newsmakers of the day. And what better way to